All right, buckle up, everybody. We're diving into something truly massive today. The Hercules Borealis Great Wall.
Yeah, definitely a cosmic heavyweight.
When I hear Great Wall, I think of like a solid structure. Like you could, run your hand along it.
Right, a big brick wall in space.
Exactly. But that's not really what we're talking about here, is it?
No, not at all. It's more like a filament, a vast network of galaxies, all kind of strung together over immense distances.
And when we say immense, we really mean it. This thing is estimated to be 10 billion light years across.
It's mind-boggling. Just to try to put that in perspective, our own Milky Way galaxy, which is, a pretty big galaxy in its own right, is estimated to be about 100,000 light years across.
So we're talking about something that's like 100,000 Milky Ways all lined up end to end. It's almost impossible to even visualize.
Yeah, it really stretches the limits of what we can comprehend. And what's even crazier is that we can't even see this thing directly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Its discovery was more like a cosmic detective story. And the clues were hidden in something called gamma ray bursts.
Exactly. Gamma ray bursts, or GRBs for short, are basically the most powerful explosions in the universe.
Whoa, really? Even more powerful than like supernovas.
Oh yeah, supernovas are pretty impressive. But GRBs are in a whole other league. These are thought to be caused by events like a massive star collapsing into a black hole or two neutron stars colliding.
So we're talking some serious cosmic fireworks here.
Definitely. The amount of energy released in a gamma ray burst is just phenomenal. It's like the entire energy output of the sun over its entire lifetime compressed into a few seconds.
Okay, so scientists are studying these bursts, and they notice something interesting.
Yeah, they start to see that there's this one area of the sky where they're detecting way more GRBs than they would expect based on random chance.
So it's like finding a cluster of like fireflies in the night sky, like way more than you'd normally see in one spot.
That's a good analogy. And that's what really got astronomers thinking. There had to be something special about that region of space, something that's producing all those gamma ray bursts.
So the thinking was maybe there's something massive there, right? Something that could create the conditions for all these dramatic events.
Precisely. GRBs tend to happen in areas where there's a lot of matter, a lot of star formation.
Yeah.
And if you've got an unusually high concentration of GRBs, it stands to reason that there must be something pretty hefty lurking in that region.
So it's like the GRBs are a cosmic signpost pointing to something truly colossal.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of the Hercules Borealis Great Wall comes in.
Yeah.
That's the name they gave to this potential megastructure.
Now, you mentioned that this structure spans across an incredible distance, but it's not just confined to those two constellations, is it?
No, it's much more extensive than that. It stretches across a huge swath of the sky, dipping into other constellations like Bootes and Draco and even parts of Gemini.
So we're talking about something that covers almost half of the northern sky.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's hard to grasp the sheer scale of it. And remember, we're not even seeing it as it is today. We're seeing it as it was billions of years ago.
Right, because of the time it takes for light to travel from those distant regions of space to reach us.
Exactly. And that's where the concept of redshift comes in.
Yes, redshift. That's how astronomers measure distances in space, isn't it? Can you give us a quick rundown on how that works?
Sure. Think of it like the sound of a siren as a police car races by.
Yeah.
As it's coming towards you, the sound waves get compressed, making the pitch higher. As it moves away, the waves stretch out, making the pitch lower.
Oh, I see. So the same thing happens with light. If an object is moving away from us, its light waves get stretched out and shifted towards the red end of the spectrum.
Exactly. The greater the redshift, the farther away the object, and the longer its light has been traveling to reach us.
So by measuring the redshift of these gamma ray bursts, scientists were essentially peering back into the distant past.
That's right. And what they saw suggested that this structure existed when the universe was much younger, billions of years ago.
Okay, so we're talking about something truly ancient and unimaginably vast. But I'm sensing a but coming here. Surely not everyone agrees that this Great Wall actually exists.
You're right. Not everyone is convinced. The idea of a structure this massive existing so early in the universe's history has raised quite a few eyebrows in the scientific community.
Okay, so what are the main arguments against the existence of the Hercules Borealis Great Wall? What are the skeptics saying?
Well, one of the main concerns is about statistical bias. You see, when you're dealing with data like this, there's always a chance that you might see patterns that aren't really there just due to random fluctuations.
So it's like flipping a coin 10 times and getting heads 8 times. It might seem like the coin is biased, but it could just be random chance.
That's a good analogy. And some astronomers argue that the clustering of gamma ray bursts that led to the idea of the Great Wall might just be a statistical fluke.
Interesting. So they're saying that we need more data, more observations to confirm whether this concentration of GRBs is truly indicative of a massive structure or just a random blip.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why this remains a topic of debate in the scientific community. There's still a lot we don't know about gamma-ray bursts. And there's always a possibility that new data could change our understanding of what's going on.
Okay, so the jury is still out on the Hercules Borealis Great Wall. But even if it turns out to be a statistical phantom, it's still an incredibly intriguing idea. And it raises some fascinating questions about the nature of the universe and how we study it.
Absolutely. It shows us that even with all the amazing technology we have today, we're still just scratching the surface of what's out there. And there are still so many mysteries to uncover.
Well, I, for one, am hooked. And I'm sure our listeners are too. So let's dive deeper into this mystery, shall we? And explore some of the arguments for and against the existence of this cosmic colossus.
Let's do it. I think you'll be surprised by what we find.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're unraveling the mystery of the Hercules Borealis Great Wall and the debate swirling around its existence.
Yeah, it's a structure that really pushes the boundaries of what we thought we knew about the universe.
You know, even if it turns out to be a statistical mirage, it still sparks some really fascinating conversations among scientists.
Oh, absolutely. It's challenged some of our fundamental assumptions about cosmology, especially a concept called the cosmological principle.
The cosmological principle. Now, that sounds pretty highfalutin. Can you break that down for us? What exactly does it mean?
Well, in the simplest terms, the cosmological principle is this idea that on the grandest scales, the universe is pretty much the same everywhere.
So no matter where you are in the universe, you should see roughly the same distribution of matter.
Exactly. It's like if you zoom out far enough, the universe should look homogeneous. No huge clumps or empty spaces, just a kind of cosmic uniformity.
Okay, so kind of like a smooth cosmic soup with no big chunks floating around?
Yeah, that's a good way to picture it, of course. We know there are galaxies and clusters of galaxies, and even vast empty regions called voids. But those variations are considered relatively small-scale fluctuations. The overall distribution of matter in the universe should still be roughly the same everywhere.
But a structure like the Hercules Borealis Great Wall, that's not exactly a small-scale fluctuation, is it? I mean, we're talking about something that spans 10 billion light years.
Yeah, and that's why the HCB Great Wall, if it's real, really throws a wrench into the works. It suggests that the universe might not be as homogeneous as we thought, even on those incredibly vast scales.
So potentially rewriting the cosmic rulebook here, what would the implications be if this thing actually exists? What does it tell us about the early universe and how things formed and evolved?
That's one of the most exciting and perplexing aspects of this whole discovery. Remember, we're seeing this structure as it existed billions of years ago, thanks to the vast distances involved and the time it takes for light to travel.
It's like a snapshot of the universe in its infancy, with the giant surprise hidden in the background.
Exactly. And if something this massive already existed back then, it suggests that gravity might have been working differently or perhaps even stronger in the early universe than we currently understand.
So the rules of the game might have been different way back then. That's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is. And it could have major implications for our understanding of things like dark matter, dark energy, and even the Big Bang itself.
Okay, so lots of potential for shaking up our understanding of the universe. But let's go back to those statistical tests for a moment. We were talking about how they were used to identify this potential structure. Can you remind us what those tests are and how they work?
Sure. The first one is called the two-dimensional Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. It's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially it compares the distribution of gamma-ray bursts in different redshift groups or distances to see if there's a statistically significant difference in their clustering.
So they're looking for clumps in the data, trying to see if the GRBs are evenly spread out or concentrated in certain areas?
Precisely. And what they found was that the group of GRBs associated with the HCB Great Wall showed a significantly higher degree of clustering than other groups at similar distances.
Okay, so that's one piece of evidence. But they didn't just stop there, did they? They used other tests as well to make sure they weren't just seeing a random fluke.
Exactly. They wanted to be extra sure. So they used two other tests as well. The second one is called the nearest neighbor test.
Nearest neighbor test. What does that one tell us?
Well, this test looks at the distances between the gamma-ray bursts. If the bursts are randomly distributed, the average distance between them should be roughly the same. But if they're clustered together, you'd see more bursts that are closer to each other than you'd expect by chance.
So they're measuring the cosmic elbow room, so to speak?
Yeah.
If things are too cozy, it raises a red flag.
That's a great way to put it. And in the case of the HCB Great Wall, The nearest neighbor test also showed that the GRBs in that region were closer together than they should be if they were just randomly scattered.
Okay, so 2 tests down, both pointing towards something unusual. What about the third test? What's that one called?
The third test is called the bootstrap point radius method. This one's a bit more complex, but essentially it involves creating lots of simulated versions of the data and comparing them to the actual observed data.
So they're basically running a cosmic simulation to see if they can accidentally create a great wall just by chance.
That's a good analogy. And the results of the bootstrap point radius method also supported the idea that this clustering of gamma ray bursts was statistically significant. It wasn't just a random fluke.
All right, so 3 different statistical tests all converging on the same conclusion. There's something fishy going on in that region of space. But even with all this evidence, I'm still grappling with the idea of a structure this massive. Is there some kind of cosmic size limit? Like a rule that says nothing can be bigger than this?
That's a really interesting question. And it gets to the heart of what we understand about the universe and how it works. There are theoretical limits based on our current understanding of cosmology and the laws of physics.
So it's not like there's a hard and fast rule, but there are certain constraints based on what we know about gravity, the expansion of the universe, and how matter clumps together over time.
Exactly. And the HCB Great Wall, if it's real, seems to be pushing up against those boundaries. It suggests that there might be processes at play that we don't fully comprehend yet.
So a potential crack in our cosmic understanding. That's pretty exciting, even if it's a little unsettling. But if the HCB Great Wall does turn out to be real, what would that mean for our current theories? Would we have to completely rewrite everything?
It wouldn't necessarily mean throwing out everything we know, but it would definitely require some adjustments and refinements to our models. It's like adding a new piece to a giant jigsaw puzzle. It might not change the overall picture drastically, but it could reveal new connections and deepen our understanding.
So a chance to learn even more about the universe and how it works, that's the kind of challenge I think scientists relish.
Absolutely. And the HCB Great Wall is a perfect example of how science is a constantly evolving process. We make observations, we develop theories, and then we find something that challenges those theories. That's how we make progress.
It's like the universe is constantly testing us, making sure we're paying attention. But you mentioned earlier that there are other ways to investigate this structure besides just looking at gamma ray bursts. Can you tell us more about that? What other clues might we be able to find?
One of the most promising avenues is to look at the distribution of galaxies in the same region of the sky, where we've seen this concentration of GRBs. If the HCB Great Wall is a real structure, we should see a similar pattern of clustering in the galaxies themselves.
So if there's a wall of galaxies, those galaxies should be clumped together in a way that we can detect.
Exactly. And there are a number of ways to look for this kind of clustering. We can create large-scale maps of the universe using telescopes and surveys, and then analyze the distribution of galaxies in those maps.
It's like we're playing Cosmic Connect the Dots, trying to see if the galaxies form any recognizable patterns.
That's a good way to think about it. Good. And the more evidence we can gather from different sources, the more confident we can be about whether the HCB Great Wall is truly a real structure or just a statistical illusion.
So it's a multifaceted investigation. We've got the gamma ray bursts. We've got the potential for galaxy clustering. And then, of course, we have the upcoming Theseus mission that we talked about earlier. Anything else that astronomers are doing to try and get to the bottom of this mystery?
Another interesting area of research is looking for other types of cosmic objects that might be associated with the HCB Great Wall. Quasars, for example, are incredibly bright and distant objects powered by supermassive black holes. If there's a large concentration of galaxies in the region of the Great Wall, we might expect to find more quasars there as well.
So quasars could be another piece of the puzzle, another way to trace out the structure of this potential cosmic behemoth.
That's right. And each new discovery, each new piece of evidence, helps us build a more complete picture of what might be going on out there.
It's like we're piecing together a giant cosmic jigsaw puzzle, and the HCB Great Wall is one of the most intriguing pieces we've found so far.
It really is. And it's a reminder that there's still so much out there that we don't know. The universe is full of surprises, and I have a feeling that we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of its true nature.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to shift gears a bit. We've been talking a lot about the science of the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. But what about the philosophical implications of this potential discovery? What does it mean for our place in the universe? What questions does it raise about the nature of reality itself? Stick around because we're about to dive into those big questions in the final part of our deep dive. And we're back for the final stretch of our deep dive into the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall.
Yeah, really stretching our minds with this one.
Even if this thing turns out to be a statistical phantom, it's really gotten us thinking about our place in the universe.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder of just how much we don't know, how vast and mysterious the cosmos really is.
We've been talking a lot about the science, the observations, the analysis, the debates, but I want to touch on something else, the human element.
Oh, I see what you mean. The people behind the science.
Exactly. What's it like for the astronomers who are at the forefront of this discovery, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge? What are they thinking and feeling as they grapple with this incredible idea?
Well, I think for many of them, it's a mix of awe and excitement. To be part of something that could potentially rewrite our understanding of the universe is an incredible privilege.
It's got to be a bit like being an explorer venturing into uncharted territory, right?
That's a great analogy. They're constantly pushing the limits of what we know,
Yeah.
challenging our assumptions, and opening up new possibilities.
And sometimes those new possibilities are even more mind-blowing than we could have ever imagined.
Exactly. And that's what makes science so captivating. It's a never-ending journey of discovery. And the HGB Great Wall, whether it turns out to be real or not, is a perfect example of that.
It really highlights the power of human curiosity and our drive to understand the world around us. But it also makes you wonder what else is out there? What other mysteries are waiting to be uncovered?
Oh, I have no doubt that there are countless other wonders out there in the vastness of space, things we haven't even begun to imagine.
It's a humbling thought, knowing that we're just a tiny part of something so much bigger than ourselves.
It is, but it's also incredibly inspiring. It reminds us that there's always more to learn, always new frontiers to explore.
And who knows? Maybe someday one of our listeners will be the one to make the next groundbreaking discovery.
Anything is possible. The universe is full of potential. And it's up to us to keep exploring and asking questions.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Keep looking up, keep wondering, and never lose your sense of awe.
Because the universe is full of wonders, and there's always something new to discover.
And until next time, keep diving deep. We'll see you on the next episode of The Deep Dive. Okay. Think about those times you had to choose between competing technologies, right? Like Blu-ray versus HD DVD,
Oh, yeah.
PlayStation or Xbox, even something as simple as just deciding which streaming service to subscribe to.
Right.
These are all format wars.
They are.
And today we are going deep on one of the most famous and consequential examples.
Okay.
Betamax versus VHS.
It's a classic story, and
Yeah.
it played out right in living rooms across the globe.
Absolutely.
A battle to shape how people consume entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, it's full of twists and turns that might surprise you.
I think it will.
Yeah.
So we've got some fascinating excerpts from the Wikipedia article on the videotape format war to guide us.
Okay.
And I have a feeling you'll see some parallels to the tech decisions you're making today.
Interesting.
So let's rewind to the early 1970s.
Okay.
The dawn of home video, 1974 to be exact.
All right.
Sony unveils its revolutionary Betamax prototype,
Wow.
a marvel of engineering, and they are convinced it's the future.
Well, they weren't the only ones with big dreams.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, alongside Betamax and VHS, there were other contenders like CED
Okay.
and VHD,
Mm-hmm.
all vying for a piece of the pie. But these formats lacked one crucial feature,
What's that?
the ability to record.
Oh, wow.
This meant that Betamax and VHS, with their home recording capability, were instantly in a league of their own.
Yeah, it's like they unlocked a whole new level of freedom for viewers, right?
Yes.
Imagine for the first time you could capture your favorite shows,
Right.
build your own library,
Yeah.
watch things on your own schedule.
Yeah, no more planning your life around the TV guide.
Exactly.
And Sony, with their early lead, seemed poised to dominate this brave new world.
Yeah.
That's where things take an interesting turn.
Okay.
JVC steps onto the scene with their own format, VHS.
Okay.
And they've got a different vision for home video.
So this is where the rivalry begins.
Yeah.
Two giants going head to head, each convinced they have the winning formula.
Right. And the plot thickens when Sony and Six, in a move that might surprise you,
Okay.
invites Matsushita,
Mm-hmm.
JVC's parent company, to the table to talk about the future of home video.
Wow.
Imagine being a fly on the wall for that meeting.
I know, right?
Here's Sony with their early lead,
Yeah.
essentially suggesting,
Yeah.
let's all get on the same page here.
Let's work together.
Right, but JVC wasn't so keen on playing follow the leader.
It makes you wonder what was going through their minds. Did Sony underestimate JVC? Did JVC see something that Sony missed?
Well, to understand that, we need to look at the strengths and weaknesses of each format.
Okay.
Initially, Betamax had a clear edge in picture quality.
Really?
Higher resolution, less noise, a sharper image. Sony marketed this, heavily positioning Betamax as the premium choice.
And I've heard they weren't exaggerating.
Oh, absolutely.
The early Betamax recordings really were noticeably better.
Yeah, but here's the catch.
Oh.
Betamax initially offered just 1 hour of recording time. VHS, on the other hand, launched with a 2-hour capacity.
So right from the start, there's this trade-off.
Yeah.
Betamax with its superior quality but limited recording time.
Right.
VHS with more recording flexibility but a slight dip in visual fidelity.
Yeah, it's like those choices you face today when picking a streaming plan.
Yeah.
Do you go for the highest resolution or the one that fits your budget?
Exactly.
And this is where another major player enters the scene.
Okay.
RCA, seeing the potential of VHS, partners with JVC, and demands a 4-hour recording mode.
Wow.
They knew that to compete, VHS needed to offer even more recording time, even if it meant sacrificing some picture quality.
Wait, so JVC was initially resistant to this idea?
They were.
They didn't want to compromise their picture quality. That seems almost counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it speaks to a fundamental difference in philosophy.
Okay.
Sony at this point was focused on pushing the boundaries of quality, appealing to the early adopters, those who wanted the absolute best. JVC, on the other hand, seemed to have a better grasp of what the average consumer was looking for. They understood that for most people, convenience and affordability trumped marginal gains in picture quality.
It's a brilliant insight.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of how companies today need to strike that balance between cutting-edge technology and meeting the practical needs of their users.
Exactly. And this difference in approach becomes even clearer when you consider how Sony responded to VHS's 2-hour recording capability.
Okay.
They introduced Beta 2 speed, which allowed for 2 hours of recording,
Okay.
but required sacrificing some of that prized resolution.
Oh, wow.
Suddenly, the playing field was more level in terms of picture quality, while VHS still held the advantage in recording time.
Right.
JVC, by pushing for longer recording, had essentially defined the terms of the competition.
It's fascinating how a seemingly small detail like recording time could have such a ripple effect. It's almost as if JVC perhaps unintentionally shifted the entire conversation away from pure technology and towards something much more practical.
And this shift had a profound impact on how the format war played out.
Yeah.
Remember, we're talking about the early days of home video.
Right.
People were recording sporting events, movies, things they wanted to watch again and again. Those extra hours of recording time offered by VHS started to look very appealing.
I can imagine no one wants to miss the end of their favorite movie because they ran out of tapes.
Right, and this is where we start to see the tide turning.
Okay.
By 1980, just a few years after launch, VHS captures a whopping 60% of the North American market.
60%? That's a landslide.
It is.
So what happened? Did people suddenly decide that picture quality didn't matter?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
We've already seen that the picture quality difference wasn't as drastic as some people believe.
Right.
Especially after the introduction of Beta 2.
Right.
The real story is much more nuanced. It's about consumer behavior, market forces, and some strategic decisions that would have lasting consequences.
Yeah. We left off with VHS capturing like a commanding lead in the home video market.
Right.
It's 1980 and the momentum is clearly shifting.
Yeah.
So what happens next for Betamax?
Well,
Did it just disappear overnight?
not exactly. Think about it this way.
Okay.
Imagine you're a movie studio in the early 80s.
All right.
You're releasing your latest blockbuster on home video, and you have to choose a format.
Right.
Do you go with Betamax, which has a smaller market share, or VHS, which is quickly becoming the standard?
Yeah.
It's a business decision.
Right.
And the studios, by and large, chose VHS.
So Betamax starts facing this uphill battle, not just against VHS, but against the entire industry that's coalescing around VHS.
Yeah, and as more studios released, movies on VHS video rental stores followed suit.
Okay.
Suddenly you walk into your local video store and the shelves are overflowing with VHS tapes, with Betamax relegated to a small corner if it's there at all.
It's a classic example of the snowball effect, right?
It is.
One small advantage gets amplified over time,
Yeah.
and pretty soon it becomes this unstoppable force.
Exactly. And remember, Betamax actually held its own for quite a while in Japan,
It did.
highlighting how these format wars weren't always about a clear technological winner.
Right.
Sometimes it's about being in the right place at the right time, having the right partnerships,
Yeah.
and understanding the nuances of different markets.
But even in Japan, VHS eventually took the lead.
It did.
So what ultimately sealed Betamax's fate on a global scale?
Well, Sony didn't give up easily.
Okay.
They kept innovating, introducing smaller Betamax cassettes and even portable players,
Oh, wow.
features that we now take for granted.
Sort of like how companies today are constantly pushing the boundaries with smaller, more powerful devices.
Yes, very much so. But VHS manufacturers weren't standing still either.
Oh, really?
They were matching Sony's innovations step for step.
Huh.
And they had a crucial advantage:
What's that?
economies of scale. They could produce VHS tapes and players more cheaply because of their larger market share.
It's that snowball effect again, but this time working against Betamax.
Right.
No matter how much they innovated, VHS could often match them at a lower price.
And then in the late 1980s and early 1990s, the landscape shifted dramatically.
Okay.
The digital revolution began, and a new player entered the scene: the DVD.
The DVD, the beginning of the end for those clunky VHS tapes, right?
Exactly. And this time, the major electronics companies,
Yeah.
perhaps learning from the bruising VHS Betamax battle, got together and agreed on a single DVD standard.
So no format war this time.
Right.
Imagine what that would have been like, competing DVD formats.
It would have been chaos for consumers.
Yeah.
Instead, the DVD quickly became the dominant format,
Right.
offering superior picture quality, durability, and interactive features that VHS and Betamax just couldn't match.
This reminds me of how with something like Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
we all benefit when there's a single standard that everyone adopts. It makes things so much simpler for the average user.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the DVD's triumph over VHS and Betamax,
Right.
and the lack of a format war with DVDs highlights a really important point.
What's that?
Technological progress marches on.
Mm-hmm.
What seems cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow.
Yeah.
A technology might be superior, but if it doesn't adapt to changing market conditions and consumer preferences,
Yeah.
it can still be overtaken by something newer and more convenient.
So are we saying that VHS won simply because it was in the right place at the right time, that it wasn't necessarily the better technology?
Well, it's not that simple.
Okay.
As we've seen, there were several factors at play.
Right.
VHS did have some inherent advantages, particularly its longer recording time, but it also benefited from JVC's strategic decisions, their focus on affordability,
Right.
their willingness to partner with other companies, their ability to adapt to changing consumer demands.
It's almost as if they were less concerned with having the best technology and more focused on understanding what the market wanted.
Exactly. They didn't let their pride or their initial vision get in the way of making smart business decisions.
This reminds me of how, in the tech world today,
Yeah.
companies sometimes have to pivot to change course if they want to stay relevant.
Right. Think about how companies like Apple or Google have shifted their focus over the years. They've had to adapt to new technologies, new trends, new ways of interacting with their customers.
And this brings us to a really fascinating question.
Right.
What format wars are happening today? Are there any modern parallels to the VHS Betamax battle?
Absolutely. Think about streaming services.
Okay.
Netflix, Disney, plus HBO Max.
Yeah.
All vying for your attention and subscription dollars.
Right?
It's a battle for content, for subscribers, for dominance in the living room, just like the VHS Betamax war.
It's amazing how some of these same dynamics are still playing out, just on a different platform.
Right.
Instead of choosing between VHS and Betamax, we're now choosing between streaming services, gaming consoles, and all these different ecosystems.
And the lessons from the VHS Betamax war are still relevant.
Yeah. What are they?
It's not just about having the best technology or the flashiest features.
Okay.
It's about understanding your market, building a strong network of partners, and being adaptable to changing consumer preferences.
So it seems like history is rhyming just with different players and different technologies.
Yeah.
And perhaps the biggest takeaway for all of us is that we, the consumers, have a lot more power than we realize.
We do.
We're not just passive observers in these format wars. Our choices collectively shape the market.
That's a great point. Think about it this way.
Okay.
Every time you decide to subscribe to a streaming service,
Yeah.
buy a new gaming console, or even just download a particular app,
Right.
you're casting a vote in this ongoing battle for dominance.
So what can we do to be more informed consumers to make sure our choices are aligned with our values and our needs?
Well, first and foremost, be aware of the forces at play. Don't just jump on the bandwagon because something is popular or trendy. Do your research.
Mm-hmm.
Compare features. Consider the long-term implications of your choices.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
What are these companies really offering? How are they using my data? What are their long-term goals?
Exactly.
Hmm.
The more informed we are, the better equipped we are to make choices that benefit us both individually and collectively.
And maybe, just maybe, by understanding the lessons of the past,
Yeah.
we can avoid repeating some of the mistakes that were made during the VHS Betamax era.
I certainly hope so, because as fascinating as these format wars might be from a historical perspective,
Yeah.
they often come at a cost.
Mm-hmm.
Innovation can be stifled. Consumers can be confused and frustrated, and ultimately the market might not always choose the best solution in the long run.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
let's shift our focus to the legacy of the VHS Betamax war.
Right.
What lasting impact did it have on the tech industry? And what are the key takeaways we can apply to our lives today? So we've been unpacking this epic battle between Betamax and VHS, right? And it's clear that it wasn't just about which technology was better.
Yeah.
It was a perfect storm of strategic decisions,
Right.
market forces, and consumer choices.
And what's fascinating is how those same dynamics are still shaping the tech landscape today.
Really?
Think about the world of smartphones.
Okay.
We had a period where, screen size was a major battleground.
Uh-huh.
Then it was processing power camera, quality battery life.
Yeah.
Each innovation shifted the landscape
Yeah.
and influenced consumer decisions just like recording time did back in the VHS era.
So it's like these format wars are a constant in the tech world.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
sort of evolutionary process where the fittest technologies, or at least the most adaptable ones,
Right.
survive and thrive.
It's a great analogy.
And the VHS Betamax story offers valuable lessons for anyone trying to navigate this ever-changing landscape. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, an investor, or just someone who wants to make informed decisions about the gadgets and services you use.
It does.
Okay, so let's break down those lessons.
Right.
What are the key takeaways from the Betamax VHS saga that we can apply to our lives today?
Well, first and foremost, understand that the best technology doesn't always win.
Yeah, Betamax at least initially had the edge in picture quality,
Right.
but that wasn't enough to guarantee its success.
It wasn't.
So what else matters? What are those other ingredients for success in a format war?
One crucial factor is understanding your market.
Okay.
JVC was laser-focused on the mass market, prioritizing affordability and features that appealed to the average consumer.
Right.
Sony, on the other hand, seemed to misjudge the market's willingness to pay a premium for slightly better picture quality.
It's like those early adopters who are willing to pay top dollar for the latest and greatest.
Yeah,
But the majority of consumers are more pragmatic.
they are.
They want something that works well and fits their budget. Does that sound familiar to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a lesson that many tech companies have had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Sometimes being the most innovative or having the most advanced technology isn't enough.
Right.
You have to meet the market where it is.
Another key takeaway is the importance of partnerships.
Yeah.
JBC was brilliant at building a strong ecosystem of partners,
Right.
from manufacturers like RCA to retailers across the country. This gave them a huge advantage in distribution and marketing.
And this is even more critical today with the interconnected nature of technology.
Right.
Think about the streaming wars we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
A company like Netflix isn't just competing with other streaming services.
Yeah.
It's competing with cable providers,
Uh-huh.
gaming consoles,
Yeah.
even social media platforms,
Yeah.
all vying for your attention.
So it's not just about the content anymore.
No.
It's about the entire experience, the platform, the ecosystem that surrounds that content.
Exactly. And the companies that can create seamless integrated experiences are likely to have a significant advantage.
Okay, so we've got understanding your market building partnerships.
Mhm.
What else? What's another crucial lesson from the Betamax VHS war?
Adaptability.
Okay.
JVC was initially hesitant to sacrifice picture quality for longer recording times,
Right.
but they ultimately listened to their partners and adapted their strategy.
Okay.
They realized that meeting consumer demands, even if it meant deviating from their initial vision, was essential for success.
So it's not about being stubborn or sticking to your guns at all costs.
It's not.
It's about being flexible, being willing to pivot when the market demands it.
Right. And this is perhaps even more important today with the rapid pace of technological change.
Yeah.
Companies that can adapt quickly, that can embrace new trends and technologies, are the ones that are most likely to thrive in the long run.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Yes.
And it's amazing how a story from the 1970s can still offer so much relevance to the tech landscape of today.
You know, it's a reminder that while the technologies may change, the fundamental principles of innovation, competition, and consumer behavior remain remarkably consistent.
So as we wrap up our exploration of the Betamax VHS saga,
Okay.
what's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners will remember?
That the choices we make as consumers matter.
Yeah.
Each time we decide to buy a product, subscribe to a service, or engage with a particular platform, we're casting a vote in this ongoing evolution of technology.
Absolutely.
By being informed, by asking questions, by understanding the forces at play.
Right.
We can help shape a future where innovation serves us rather than the other way around.
That's a great note to end on.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey back in tech history.
It was fun.
It's been a blast unpacking this classic format war.
Yeah, it has.
And uncovering the surprising lessons that still resonate today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those format war instincts sharp.
All right, let's dive in. We're tackling a Titan-sized topic today.
Yeah, this one's a classic.
Michael Jordan versus LeBron James for the GOAT title. The ultimate basketball showdown. You guys sent in a mountain of articles and data.
So much to dig into.
And we're going to sift through it all, see what really makes a GOAT.
Right, because it's not just about the points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do either of these legends actually earn that title? By the way, some of these side stories are wild. Did you know LeBron once rescued Carmelo Anthony from a capsized boat?
Hey, what? I did not know that.
And get this, Michael Jordan owns a NASCAR team.
You're kidding. That's amazing.
I know. We'll get to those stories, I promise, but we got to lay the groundwork first.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
Their early careers.
Okay, high school. Both Jordan and James were Gatorade National Players of the Year.
Wow.
LeBron actually won it twice.
Twice.
He was already a phenomenon back then.
I bet.
6'7" as a junior, Slam magazine called him, well, get this, possibly the best high school basketball player in America. That's a lot of pressure.
Imagine being a teenager with that kind of label.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how that attention shaped him, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Compared to Jordan, who blossomed a bit later, did the hype help or hurt LeBron's development?
That's the question, isn't it? And their paths to the NBA were totally different, too. Jordan went to college, led the UNC Tar Heels to a national championship.
Yeah, college is big for Jordan.
Right. But LeBron, straight to the NBA from high school.
Skipped college completely. Big decision.
Huge. So Jordan had time to hone his skills, less media scrutiny.
Under the radar a bit. LeBron, on the other hand.
Boom, instant spotlight. Could that have impacted their careers, how they unfolded?
That's a great point. Right. LeBron's decision to skip college was a game changer. Paved the way for so many players after him. Challenged the whole system, you know?
Absolutely. It was a turning point. And it set the stage for that whole The Decision thing a few years later.
Oh yeah, that TV special when he announced he was going to Miami.
Oh man, that was controversial. Got some criticism, even from Michael Jordan himself. But you gotta admit, it shifted the balance of power, players having more control.
Yeah, more power to the players.
It was a new era of player empowerment, you could say.
It definitely got people talking.
Yeah.
Speaking of power moves, let's talk championships.
Yeah.
Jordan, 6 championships with the Bulls. Never lost in the finals. Unbelievable.
Domination. But we got to give credit where credit is due. The Bulls had an incredible supporting cast. Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman.
Oh, yeah, that was a dynasty.
For real. So how much was Jordan's success because of the team around him?
Right. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. But LeBron's got 4 championships with 3 different teams.
That's pretty unique.
Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers, LA Lakers. No one else has done that.
He adapted to different teams, different play styles, and let's not forget the whole super team thing he basically invented.
Oh, joining forces with other superstars.
Yeah, like Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami. Change the game. A new way to build a championship contender.
So Jordan thrived within a dynasty, LeBron built his own, two different paths to the top.
Exactly. And before we jump into their legacies off the court, we got to look at the numbers. LeBron's on track to beat Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for all-time leading scorer.
Wow. Mind-blowing.
It is, but how do we compare their stats when they played in different eras, different rules, different lengths of time? I mean, LeBron entered the NBA straight out of high school. He's played way more seasons than Jordan.
That's a great point. Raw numbers don't tell the whole story, do they?
Right. Context is everything. For example, Jordan led the league in scoring 10 times. 10.
10.
10. And he was a 10-time All-NBA first-team selection.
He was consistently at the top.
Dominating for years. But, comparing across different eras is always tricky. It's like comparing apples and oranges sometimes. The game has evolved so much. But what we can do is look at how their statistical achievements reflect their impact on the game. For example, Jordan's scoring titles weren't just about putting up points. They were about carrying his team night after night and setting a standard for offensive excellence.
It's true. He had that killer instinct, this drive to dominate every game. And speaking of dominance, you've provided us with some fascinating insights into their lives off the court, too. LeBron's acting career, for one. Who could forget his hilarious performance in Trainwreck?
And Michael Jordan's foray into NASCAR team ownership, it speaks to his competitive spirit, even beyond basketball.
I know. I never thought I'd see Michael Jordan involved in NASCAR, but it makes sense when you think about it. Both sports demand precision, strategy, and a relentless pursuit of victory. It's almost like a natural progression for someone as driven as Jordan.
And it highlights a key aspect of both players, their desire to push boundaries and explore new challenges. This extends to their philanthropic work as well. LeBron founded the I Promise School in Akron, providing a safe and supportive learning environment for at-risk children.
That's an incredible initiative. And Jordan has been a longtime supporter of various charities, including the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. It's inspiring to see these athletes use their platforms to give back to their communities.
It adds another layer to their legacies. They're not just basketball players. They're role models who are using their influence to make a positive impact on the world.
Absolutely. And they haven't shied away from taking a stand on important social issues, even when it's sparked controversy. Jordan has donated to organizations fighting for social justice and racial equality, and LeBron has been a vocal advocate for voting rights and criminal justice reform.
Their willingness to speak out on these issues, despite the potential backlash, is commendable. They're using their voices to raise awareness and inspire change.
It makes you think about the evolving role of athletes in society. They're not just entertainers anymore. They're cultural icons with the power to shape opinions and influence public discourse.
And that raises a crucial question. Does an athlete's off-court impact factor into their GOAT status? Is it enough to be a champion on the court, or should we expect more from these larger-than-life figures?
That's a great question. It's something I've been grappling with as we've been going through these sources. On the one hand, we tend to define greatness in sports by championships, stats, and individual brilliance. But on the other hand, these athletes have such a wide reach and influence that it feels almost impossible to separate their on-court achievements from their off-court actions.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but I think it's important to acknowledge the multifaceted nature of their legacies. Their contributions extend beyond the basketball court into the realms of business, philanthropy, and social activism.
So after considering all of this, the stats, the championships, the impact beyond the game, have you reached a verdict? Who gets your vote for June? Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It really is a tough one. I mean, both Jordan and LeBron, they reached a level of greatness most athletes, they only dream of. But if I have to pick, based on everything we've talked about, I'd have to give the edge to Michael Jordan.
Wow. Okay. I'm a little surprised, I got to say. I mean, Jordan has those 6 championships with the Bulls, but LeBron, he played for so long and won with 3 different teams. That's incredible.
It is. It's remarkable, how he adapted and stayed at the top for so long. But for me, it's Jordan's peak dominance, his absolute focus on winning, and the way he made basketball a global phenomenon. That's what sets him apart.
So you're really putting a lot of weight on those 6 championships and that undefeated record in the final.
It's not just the numbers, how he won them.
Right.
Jordan stepped up when it mattered most. He was clutch, a true competitor, thrived under pressure, And his individual brilliance with the Bulls dynasty, it created this whole story, bigger than basketball.
Yeah, the Bulls were more than just a team. They were like a cultural phenomenon.
Exactly. And LeBron, while he's done amazing things, his career has had more ups and downs. And, well, joining forces with other superstars to build those super teams, some fans say it diminishes his individual achievements, you know?
Yeah, some people think Jordan's championships were more, well, pure because he did it with a team that was built over time, not just put together through free agency.
Right. And look, I respect LeBron's approach. I admire what he's accomplished. But for me, it's Jordan's journey, his pure dominance, his impact on the game worldwide. That gives him the edge in the GOAT debate.
That's a strong argument.
Right.
And, there's no easy answer here. Both Jordan and LeBron, they've left their mark on basketball. Their legacies will be debated for years to come.
That's what makes this whole conversation so interesting. It makes us think about achievement, legacy, how sports have changed. What does greatness really mean? Is it just winning? Or is it something more?
It's a question for everyone to answer, I think. What matters most to you? There's no right or wrong. But hopefully after this deep dive, you, the listener, you have a better understanding of both sides. And you can decide for yourself who deserves that Jew title.
Exactly. Whether you're Team Jordan or Team LeBron, we've been lucky to witness two of the greatest basketball players ever, inspiring countless fans, pushing the game's limits, leaving a mark that goes way beyond basketball.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll be having this same conversation about a whole new generation of superstars. But until then, keep watching, keep debating, and keep appreciating the amazing athleticism and artistry of these incredible players.